The courtroom fell into a deathly silence as Judge Judy and Chief Justice John Roberts took their seats on the elevated bench, their eyes fixed on Senator John Kennedy, standing tall in the defendant's chair. The air was thick with anticipation, every whisper and shuffle stifled, as the nation watched live on C-SPAN, hanging on to every moment of this unprecedented legal showdown. The two most formidable figures in American justice, Judge Judy, the sharp-tongued television icon, and Chief Justice Roberts, the stoic guardian of the Supreme Court, had joined forces in a spectacle that promised to reshape the political landscape. They thought they had Kennedy, the quick-witted senator from Louisiana, cornered in a legal trap designed to end his career and send a chilling message to any politician daring to challenge the establishment. But what happened next would leave the nation stunned as Kennedy, with his trademark Southern charm and razor-sharp intellect, prepared to turn the tables in a way no one saw coming. Before we dive into this electrifying story, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button to stay locked in for every jaw-dropping moment that's redefining American politics right before our eyes. This wasn't just a trial. It was the moment a seasoned senator took on the full weight of the judicial establishment and fought back with a brilliance that would echo for years. Judge Judy, at 81, was a television legend whose no-nonsense courtroom style had made grown men tremble and liars crumble for over 2 decades. Her catchphrase, "Don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining," was a cultural staple, a warning to anyone foolish enough to test her razor-sharp instincts. Beside her sat Chief Justice John Roberts, 69, the epitome of judicial authority, whose measured tone and constitutional expertise had shaped some of the most pivotal Supreme Court decisions in modern history. His rare appearance outside the marble halls of the Supreme Court signaled the gravity of the moment, a moment that felt less like a trial and more like a political execution. The pairing was extraordinary, born from a rare congressional subpoena that authorized a joint civilian constitutional court hearing, an experiment never before attempted in American history. The legal grounds were murky, but the political stakes were crystal clear. John Kennedy, a vocal and influential senator, was in the crosshairs of a system determined to silence him. Kennedy stood calmly, his hands clasped his face, betraying no hint of fear, despite the combined legal firepower aimed at him. Known for his folksy eloquence and unyielding commitment to challenging the status quo, he had become a thorn in the side of powerful interests. The charges leveled against him, misuse of congressional funds, ethics violations, and conspiracy to obstruct justice, were crafted to not only strip him of his Senate seat, but also to tarnish his reputation beyond repair. Conviction would mean more than the end of his career. It could land him behind bars. The accusations painted a picture of a man who had allegedly funneled taxpayer money into personal ventures and used his platform to mislead the public for political gain. For Kennedy's supporters, this was nothing short of a political hit job, a calculated move to neutralize a senator who refused to bow to pressure. For his detractors, it was a long-overdue reckoning for a politician they claimed had crossed ethical lines. The courtroom buzzed with reporters, legal scholars, and congressional colleagues from both sides of the aisle, all packed into the gallery like spectators at a gladiatorial match. Outside, the nation was glued to their screens, with CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC dedicating wall-to-wall coverage to what was being called the trial of the century. Social media was already ablaze with hashtags like #JusticeForKennedy and a Hold Them Accountable trending in a fierce tug-of-war. The tension was palpable, a storm brewing in the silence as every eye turned to the bench. Judge Judy leaned forward, her signature reading glasses glinting under the courtroom lights, and fixed Kennedy with a stare that had broken countless defendants on her TV show. "Senator Kennedy," She began, her voice dripping with skepticism. "I've been dealing with folks who think they're slicker than a snake in a rainstorm for over 40 years. You're standing here accused of some serious misdeeds, diverting congressional funds, playing fast and loose with ethics, and obstructing justice." "These documents," she said, holding up a thick folder marked with colored tabs, "show a pattern that'd make a con artist blush. Care to explain this to me, like I'm a child who just learned to tie their shoes?" Kennedy met her gaze, his expression steady, a faint smile playing at the corners of his mouth. He knew Judge Judy's game. Her theatrical interrogations were designed to rattle defendants, to make them stumble under the weight of her relentless pressure. But he wasn't one of her usual litigants, and he wasn't about to be intimidated. Before he could respond, Chief Justice Roberts adjusted his glasses and spoke, his voice calm but authoritative, cutting through the room like a blade. "Senator Kennedy, let's turn to the constitutional implications of your actions. Are you familiar with Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution, which addresses congressional privilege?" Kennedy nodded, his posture relaxed but attentive. Good. Roberts continued, pulling out a leather-bound legal brief. "While you enjoy certain protections for legislative activities, those protections don't extend to criminal behavior or ethical breaches. The financial records Judge Shindlin referenced suggest a troubling misuse of resources well outside the scope of your constitutional immunity." Roberts's words were precise, his argument a carefully constructed scaffold meant to trap Kennedy in a web of legal precedent. He went on, his tone growing sharper. "Furthermore, your public statements, particularly on social media, have often contained exaggerations that could be construed as misleading the public for financial gain. For example, we have evidence of claims you made about congressional procedures that were factually inaccurate. Yet these statements coincided with spikes in campaign donations. The founders never intended for elected officials to exploit their platforms in this way. This isn't just politics. It's a potential violation of public trust." Judge Judy jumped back, in her voice rising with indignation. "Let me make this crystal clear, Senator. You don't get to waltz into Congress, throw around folksy one-liners, and think you're above the law. I've seen every trick in the book, sob stories, deflections, you name it. These financial records show you funneling taxpayer money into your own projects, paying staff to churn out viral content during work hours. You think because you've got 1 million followers online, you're untouchable. I was making people regret lying to me before you ever stepped foot in Washington." The gallery stirred, a murmur rippling through the crowd as her words landed like punches. She leaned back, arms crossed, her signature pose, signaling she was just getting started. Kennedy remained unfazed, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the cameras, the reporters, and the weight of the moment. He knew this wasn't just about him, it was about setting a precedent that could be used to target any politician who dared to speak out too loudly. The charges were a carefully crafted weapon designed by conservative legal scholars to blur the line between political speech and criminality. Success here would open the door to similar prosecutions, a tool to silence dissenting voices across the political spectrum. Civil rights groups had already rallied behind Kennedy, calling the trial a dangerous overreach that threatened the very foundations of democracy. Constitutional experts agreed the outcome would redefine the boundaries of political accountability for decades. The cameras captured every angle, the steely resolve in Kennedy's eyes, the confident smirks of the judges, the restless energy of the packed gallery. Judge Judy pressed on, her voice cutting through the tension. "Look at me when I'm talking to you, Senator. You're not in some backwoods town hall spinning yarns. This is a courtroom, and these allegations aren't just gossip, they're federal crimes. You've got staffers paid to make you look good online using taxpayer dollars. You've got campaign funds flowing in after every controversial tweet. Explain that, and don't give me any of your Senate floor rhetoric." Her words were a challenge, a dare to see if Kennedy would crack under the pressure she'd wielded so effectively for decades. Chief Justice Roberts took a different tack, his voice measured but unrelenting. "Senator, the speech or debate clause protects legitimate legislative activities, but it's not a shield for misconduct. The Supreme Court has long held, as in United States v. Brewster, that bribery and corruption fall outside constitutional protections. Your financial dealings bear a striking resemblance to those precedents. When you use your platform to generate personal gain through questionable means, you step beyond the bounds of privilege." He held up another brief, this one stamped with the Supreme Court's seal. "We've documented 15 instances where your public statements led to measurable financial benefits, often through misleading claims. That's not advocacy, that's a pattern." The two judges worked in tandem, a devastating combination of Judge Judy's psychological warfare and Roberts's legal precision. Every time Kennedy opened his mouth to respond, one would interrupt with a new accusation, their timing so seamless it suggested hours of rehearsal. Judge Judy leaned forward again, her glasses sliding down her nose. "You know what gets my goat people like you who think they can charm their way out of trouble. I've seen your type smooth-talking, quick with a quip, but when the evidence piles up, all the charm in the world won't save you. You're not in Louisiana anymore, Senator. This is the big leagues, and your social media stunts won't get you out of this mess." Roberts nodded, his expression unreadable, but his words cutting. "The integrity of our democratic institutions rests on accountability. If elected officials can exploit their platforms for personal gain without consequence, we risk eroding public trust in governance itself. The charges against you, Senator, are not just about ethics. They're about preserving the rule of law." The judges exchanged a glance, their confidence palpable, certain they had Kennedy exactly where they wanted him. The trap was set, a masterclass in legal strategy that combined Judge Judy's public humiliation tactics with Roberts's constitutional authority. They believed they had constructed an airtight case, one that would not only destroy Kennedy, but serve as a warning to others who dared to challenge the system. But Kennedy wasn't just any defendant. Beneath his calm exterior burned a fierce determination honed by years of navigating the rough waters of American politics. As the judges leaned back, satisfied that they had him cornered, Kennedy's hand rested lightly on his briefcase, where a set of documents waited. Documents that would soon turn this trial into a spectacle no one could have predicted. The nation watched, unaware that the senator from Louisiana was about to unleash a counterstrike that would expose a conspiracy reaching the highest levels of the American justice system. This was more than a trial. It was a battle for the soul of democracy, and John Kennedy was ready to fight. The courtroom held its breath as Senator John Kennedy stood resolute. The weight of Judge Judy Sheindlin's piercing stare and Chief Justice John Roberts's calculated legal arguments pressing down on him like a storm. The nation, glued to C-SPAN's live broadcast, sensed the tide was about to turn. The two judicial titans thought they had Kennedy, the sharp-tongued senator from Louisiana, pinned in a legal corner, his career teetering on the edge of ruin. Their accusations, misuse of congressional funds, ethics violations, and obstructing justice, were meant to dismantle his reputation and set a precedent for silencing outspoken politicians. But in the next few minutes, Kennedy would unleash a counterattack that left the judges stunned and flipped the trial into a national spectacle. His hand reached for his briefcase, steady and deliberate, pulling out a folder stamped with the seal of the Senate Ethics Committee. What he was about to reveal would not only save his political life, but expose a plot that threatened the core of American democracy. Drop a comment below to let us know where you're watching from. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch every heart-pounding moment of this political earthquake. This wasn't just a defense. It was the moment a Southern senator turned the tables on the establishment with a brilliance that would echo across the nation. The gallery buzzed with nervous energy reporters scribbling furiously as Kennedy opened the folder, his voice calm but laced with an edge that cut through the room. "Your Honors," he began his Louisiana drawl, carrying a quiet authority. "Before we go any further with these allegations, I believe the American people deserve to see the truth behind this so-called trial." Judge Judy's eyebrows shot up, her lips parting as if to interrupt, but Kennedy pressed on undeterred. "These documents, obtained through a lawful Senate subpoena, show a coordinated effort to fabricate charges against me. They reveal a plan hatched months ago, not to uphold justice, but to silence a senator who refuses to bow to the establishment." The camera zoomed in, capturing the moment, as he held up the first email, its text projected on courtroom screens for all to see. This communication from a senior clerk in Chief Justice Roberts' office to a prominent conservative legal group reads, "Kennedy's influence is growing. We need a case to neutralize him before he sways more voters. The charges must stick, and they must be public." The room erupted in murmurs, a ripple of shock spreading through the gallery. Judge Judy slammed her hand on the bench, her voice sharp. "That's inadmissible hearsay." "Senator, this isn't some TV drama where you can pull out papers and play Perry Mason." Kennedy's eyes twinkled with a hint of defiance. "Is it, Your Honor? These emails were obtained legally, and they prove this trial was orchestrated to destroy me, not to serve justice." He turned to the cameras, addressing the millions watching. "The American people deserve to know when their courts are being used as weapons." His words landed like a thunderclap, and social media exploded. The hashtag #JusticeForKennedy surged to the top of Twitter, with users sharing screenshots of the email captioned, "Kennedy just exposed the plot." One viral post showing Judge Judy's stunned expression racked up thousands of likes with the line, "When you realize the defendants got receipts." Kennedy didn't stop there. He pulled out another document, this one detailing changes to Senate accounting rules made just weeks before his office submitted its financial reports. "These charges about misuse of funds. They're based on rules that didn't exist when my office filed our reports," he said, his voice steady but forceful. "Someone changed the game to trap me, and these documents show exactly who." He held up a memo from a conservative legal foundation outlining how the new rules were designed to create technical violations that could be used against targeted senators. The gallery gasped, and even some court officials exchanged uneasy glances. Kennedy's preparation was meticulous, his delivery a masterclass in controlled outrage. If this is justice, Your Honors, then why does it rely on moving the goalposts to catch someone in a lie? They didn't tell. Chief Justice Roberts, usually unflappable, shifted in his seat, his pen pausing over his notes. He adjusted his glasses and tried to regain control. "Senator Kennedy, these documents, even if authentic, don't negate the evidence of your financial irregularities. Your social media posts, for instance, have driven campaign donations through inflammatory rhetoric. That's not legislative activity, that's profiteering." Kennedy didn't flinch. "With all due respect, Chief Justice, my posts are political speech protected by the First Amendment and the Speech or Debate Clause. If you're going to criminalize passionate advocacy, you'd better start hauling half of Congress in here." His retort drew a chuckle from the gallery, breaking the tension for a moment, but the weight of his words hung heavy. Judge Judy, sensing the momentum slipping, leaned forward, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, please, Senator, spare us the constitutional lecture. You're not some noble defender of free speech. You're a politician who figured out how to turn tweets into cash. Those staffers you paid to make viral videos, that's not serving the public. That's building your brand on taxpayer dime. She waved a hand dismissively, her glasses glinting as she fixed him with her infamous stare. I've seen hustlers like you my whole career. You think you're smarter than everyone else, but the evidence doesn't lie. Kennedy met her gaze unfazed, his southern charm masking a steel core. Judge Sheindlin, I've spent my career fighting for the people of Louisiana, not chasing fame. But if we're talking evidence, let's talk about the evidence that this trial was rigged from the start. He pulled out another email, this one addressed to a media consultant known for orchestrating high-profile legal spectacles. This message, sent from an associate of the same legal group, says, "We need Judge Judy's star power to make this trial a public execution. Her style will break Kennedy down on live TV." Sound familiar, Your Honor? The courtroom fell silent, Judge Judy's face flushing as she struggled to respond. For the first time in her storied career, the woman who had dismantled countless defendants with her quick wit looked caught off guard. Kennedy pressed his advantage, his voice rising with conviction. This isn't about accountability. It's about using the courts to crush anyone who dares challenge the system. And I'm not here to be your scapegoat. The cameras caught every moment Judge Judy's stunned silence, Roberts's furrowed brow, the gallery's growing restlessness. Social media was a wildfire now, with TikTok users posting clips of Kennedy's calm defiance, one video overlaying his words with a dramatic soundtrack. And the caption, "When you come for Kennedy, you'd better bring more than accusations." The posts racked up millions of views, with young voters and political activists rallying behind him. On Instagram, a screenshot of Kennedy holding up the damning email went viral, accompanied by fire emojis and the phrase, "The South rises again." Even conservative commentators, usually skeptical of Kennedy's folksy style, began sharing his clips praising his courage in taking on the judicial elite. Kennedy turned his attention to Roberts, his tone respectful but unrelenting. "Chief Justice, you've spoken about the integrity of our institutions. But what does it say about those institutions when a Supreme Court Justice's office is caught colluding with partisan groups to target elected officials? These documents show your staff discussing how to neutralize me before I could influence key votes. That's not justice. That's politics dressed up in a robe." Roberts's face remained impassive, but his hands betrayed a slight tremble as he shuffled his papers. The accusation landed like a grenade, and the gallery buzzed with whispers as reporters scrambled to verify the document's authenticity. Kennedy's counterattack was relentless, each revelation building on the last. He presented a timeline meticulously compiled, showing how the charges against him were crafted months in advance, with input from legal scholars who had long sought to curb the influence of outspoken senators. "This trial isn't about my actions," he said, his voice resonating with the cadence of a seasoned orator. "It's about sending a message, step out of line, and the system will crush you. But I'm not here to be crushed, and I'm not here to be silent." He paused, letting his words sink in, the cameras capturing the fire in his eyes. "The people of Louisiana sent me to Washington to fight for them, and that's exactly what I'm doing right here, right now." The room erupted in applause from Kennedy's supporters in the gallery, a rare breach of courtroom decorum that the bailiffs struggled to contain. Judge Judy, visibly rattled, tried to regain her footing. "You're not running a campaign rally, Senator. This is a courtroom and you're still facing serious charges." But her words lacked their usual bite, and Kennedy seized the moment. "If this is a courtroom, Your Honor, then let's treat it like one. Let's talk about the evidence, not the accusations, but the truth." These documents show a pattern not of my wrongdoing, but of a system trying to bend the rules to break me. He held up the folder again, its contents now the centerpiece of the trial. The question isn't whether I broke the law. It's whether this court will let the real lawbreakers walk free. Chief Justice Roberts attempted to steer the proceedings back to his advantage, his voice steady but strained. "Senator, you're raising serious allegations, but the court must focus on the charges at hand. Your financial records show irregularities, and your social media activity has crossed ethical lines. These are not distractions, they're facts." Kennedy didn't hesitate. "Facts, Chief Justice." "Then let's talk about the fact that your office was involved in crafting those charges. Let's talk about the fact that the rules were changed to make my actions look illegal. If we're here for the truth, then let's have all of it, not just the parts that fit your narrative." His words were a direct challenge, and the room felt the shift. The defendant was no longer on trial. The system itself was. As the chapter closed, Kennedy stood taller, his briefcase now a symbol of his defiance. The judges, once so confident in their trap, exchanged uneasy glances, their carefully laid plans unraveling before the nation. Social media continued to explode with Kennedy exposes injustice trending faster than any political hashtag in recent memory. A viral TikTok video captured Kennedy's line, "I'm not here to be crushed," set to a triumphant beat, garnering millions of views. The senator from Louisiana had turned the trial into a battlefield, and he was fighting not just for himself, but for every American who believed in the promise of democracy. The stage was set for an even bigger revelation, one that would shake the foundations of the American justice system and cement Kennedy's place as a hero in the fight against corruption. The courtroom crackled with electric tension as Senator John Neely Kennedy stood poised, his gaze unwavering under the relentless scrutiny of Judge Judy Sheindlin and Chief Justice John Roberts. The nation, riveted to C-SPAN's live feed, could sense the ground shifting beneath the two judicial giants. They believed they had Kennedy, the unyielding senator from Louisiana, trapped in a web of accusations, misuse of congressional funds, ethics violations, and obstructing justice designed to shatter his career and silence his voice. But Kennedy, with his Southern grit and razor-sharp mind, was about to deliver a blow that would leave the judges speechless and expose a conspiracy reaching the highest echelons of American justice. As the cameras zoomed in, he reached into his briefcase, pulling out a small recording device that gleamed under the courtroom lights. What he was about to reveal would not only dismantle the case against him, but turn the trial into a historic reckoning. Drop a comment below to tell us where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button to catch every explosive moment of this political firestorm. This wasn't just a defense. It was the moment a senator became a beacon of truth, taking on the establishment with courage that would inspire a nation. The gallery held its breath as Kennedy raised the device, his voice steady but carrying a fire that commanded attention. "Your Honors," he began, his Louisiana drawl cutting through the silence this morning before this trial began. "I received a call from an unknown number. That call offered me a way out of these charges if I agreed to soften my stance on certain judicial matters. I think the American people deserve to hear it." Judge Judy's eyes narrowed, her hand twitching as if to interrupt. But Kennedy pressed on, undaunted. He pressed play, and a distorted voice filled the courtroom. "Senator Kennedy, this doesn't have to end your career. Certain parties are willing to drop the charges if you ease up on your criticism of judicial decisions. A more moderate approach would benefit everyone." The room erupted in gasps, reporters scribbling frantically as the words echoed. Kennedy looked directly at the cameras, his voice resolute. "This isn't justice, Your Honors. This is blackmail." The impact was immediate. Social media exploded with #KennedyExposes, injustice skyrocketing to millions of tweets within minutes. A TikTok video of the moment captioned "Kennedy just dropped a bomb" went viral, racking up 3 million views in an hour. Instagram stories flooded with screenshots of Judge Judy's stunned expression paired with fire emojis and captions like "When the trap backfires." Kennedy turned to Judge Judy, his tone respectful but unyielding. "Judge Sheindlin, you've built a career on truth and accountability. You've told countless defendants that lies always catch up. So tell me, did you know you were being used as a pawn in a scheme to silence a senator?" For the first time in her decades-long career, Judge Judy faltered, her signature confidence replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. Kennedy shifted his focus to Chief Justice Roberts, his voice gaining strength. "Chief Justice, you've sworn to uphold the Constitution, yet your office was involved in a plot to undermine a duly elected official. These documents," he said, holding up the folder from Chapter 2, "show your staff coordinating with a conservative legal group to fabricate charges against me. And now this recording proves someone tried to coerce me into silence. Is this the justice system you stand for?" Roberts, usually composed, gripped his pen tightly, his face betraying a crack in his stoic facade. He attempted to regain control, his voice measured but strained. "Senator, this recording is unverified, and your allegations are speculative. The charges against you, financial misconduct and ethical breaches, stand on their own merit." Kennedy wasn't having it. "Unverified. The metadata on this recording has already been sent to federal investigators, Chief Justice. And as for the charges, let's talk about their merit." He pulled out another document, this one a memo from the same legal group that orchestrated the trial. This memo outlines a strategy to use high-profile judicial figures to lend credibility to politically motivated prosecutions. It names both of you explicitly. The gallery buzzed and reporters rushed to capture every word. Kennedy's preparation was surgical, each piece of evidence a carefully aimed strike. This trial was never about my actions. It was about punishing me for speaking out, for challenging decisions that erode public trust in our institutions. Judge Judy. Her face flushed, tried to counter. "Senator, you're deflecting. These documents and recordings don't change the fact that your financial records show irregularities. You can't just wave a gadget around and expect to walk away from accountability." Her voice carried its usual bite, but it lacked conviction, and the gallery sensed it. Kennedy responded with a calm that belied the storm he was unleashing. "Accountability. Judge Sheindlin. I agree. Let's hold everyone accountable. These records you keep mentioning, they were audited under rules that were changed to make my office look guilty. And this email," he said, holding up another page, "shows the rule change was proposed by the same group that contacted your team to ensure this trial would break Kennedy publicly." The cameras caught every moment Judge Judy's clenched jaw, Roberts's furrowed brow, the gallery's growing unrest. Social media was a frenzy with YouTube clips of Kennedy's defiance titled, "Senator Kennedy Destroys Judge Judy and Roberts," gaining hundreds of thousands of views. One viral post on X showed Kennedy holding the recording device captioned, "When you come for a Southern senator, you'd better bring more than lies." Kennedy's supporters in the gallery began to clap, forcing the bailiffs to call for order. He pressed forward, his voice rising with conviction. "This isn't just about me. This is about a system that thinks it can intimidate elected officials into silence. If you can target a senator for speaking out, what's stopping you from targeting any American who dares to question the powerful Kennedy?" Turned to the constitutional argument, his legal acumen shining. "Chief Justice, you mentioned the speech or debate clause earlier. Let me remind you, it protects senators for their legislative activities, including public statements. Every post, every speech, every criticism I've made is part of my duty to represent the people of Louisiana. You can't criminalize that without tearing up the Constitution you are sworn to defend. Roberts tried to interject, but Kennedy cut him off smoothly. And let's be clear, while you're accusing me of misleading the public, your office was caught planning this trial to manipulate public perception. If we're talking accountability, let's start there. The room was electric now, the power dynamic shifting with every word. Kennedy held up the folder again, his voice carrying the weight of truth. These documents show a pattern not of my wrongdoing, but of a coordinated effort to weaponize the courts. They show meetings, emails, and plans to target senators who don't toe the line. And this recording, he said, tapping the device, is proof that someone thought they could buy my silence. They miscalculated. The gallery erupted again, this time with cheers, as Kennedy's words resonated beyond the courtroom. On X, a progressive activist tweeted Kennedy just turned the trial into a masterclass on fighting corruption. He had our justice for Kennedy. Even conservative commentators, usually critical of Kennedy's style, praised his courage. One posting, "Love him or hate him, Kennedy's exposing the swamp." Judge Judy, desperate to regain control, leaned forward, her voice sharp but unsteady. "You're turning this into a circus. Senator, this court is about facts, not theatrics. You can't just accuse everyone else to dodge your own guilt." Kennedy met her gaze, his smile faint but defiant. "A circus judge. The only circus here is a trial built on lies to destroy a senator's career. You've spent years calling out liars, now's your chance to call out the ones who brought you here." The jab landed hard, and Judge Judy sat back, her face a mix of shock and frustration. For the first time, the woman who had built an empire on cutting through deception looked outmaneuvered. Kennedy turned to the cameras, addressing the nation directly. "The American people deserve a justice system that serves them, not one that serves hidden agendas. They deserve to know when their courts are being used to settle political scores." His words were a rallying cry, and the response was immediate. Instagram flooded with stories of Kennedy's stand, with one viral image showing him holding the recording device captioned, "The moment Kennedy turned the tables." The nation was watching not just a trial, but a battle for the soul of democracy. Kennedy's evidence had shifted the narrative. He was no longer the defendant. He was the prosecutor holding the system accountable. As the chapter closed, Kennedy stood tall, his briefcase a symbol of his defiance, the recording device a testament to his resolve. Judge Judy and Chief Justice Roberts, once so confident in their trap, now faced a trial spiraling out of their control. The nation was on edge, waiting for Kennedy's next move, knowing that whatever came next would redefine the boundaries of justice and power in America. The senator from Louisiana had just turned the courtroom into a stage, and the world was watching. The courtroom erupted into controlled chaos as Senator John Neely Kennedy stood undaunted, his evidence laid bare before a stunned Judge Judy Sheindlin and Chief Justice John Roberts. The nation, captivated by C-SPAN's live broadcast, watched as the senator from Louisiana, transformed from defendant to champion, unraveling a conspiracy that threatened the heart of American democracy. The judges, once certain they had Kennedy cornered, with charges of financial misconduct and ethics violations, now sat speechless, their carefully laid trap dismantled by his airtight revelations. With the cameras capturing every moment, Kennedy prepared to deliver his final blow, demanding not just his exoneration, but a reckoning for the system that tried to silence him. Drop a comment below to share where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for every defining moment in this battle for justice. This wasn't just a trial's end. It was the moment a senator redefined accountability, leaving a legacy of courage and a lesson for every American. Kennedy's voice rang out steady and commanding as he addressed the bench. Your Honors, based on the evidence of prosecutorial misconduct and a clear violation of my constitutional protections, I move for the immediate dismissal of all charges. He held up the folder of damning documents, his eyes blazing with conviction. Furthermore, I call for a full congressional investigation into the coordination between the Supreme Court and partisan groups to target elected officials. The gallery exploded in applause, the sound echoing as supporters leapt to their feet. Judge Judy, her legendary composure shattered, sat frozen, her hands gripping the bench. Roberts, his face ashen, stammered, "This court will recess to review these developments." But the words fell flat, drowned by the crowd's fervor. The nation was ablaze online. Kennedy exposes injustice trended with millions of tweets. One viral clip of Kennedy's final demand, garnering 500,000 shares, captioned, "When a senator schools the Supreme Court." TikTok erupted with memes of Judge Judy's stunned silence, one video overlaying her expression with "Game Over" in bold letters. Kennedy's victory wasn't just personal, it exposed a system rigged to silence dissent. He turned to the cameras, his voice resonant. The American people deserve a justice system that upholds truth, not one that bends to power. Today we've shown that no one, not even the highest courts, can silence the will of the people. His words sparked a firestorm of support, with Instagram flooded by images of him leaving the courtroom captioned, "Kennedy 1, Establishment 0. The fallout was seismic. Congressional leaders announced immediate inquiries into judicial ethics, while conservative legal groups faced donor backlash and calls for transparency. Kennedy's call for reform, term limits, ethics enforcement, and judicial transparency gained traction. His voice now a national force. He became a symbol of resistance, inspiring a wave of activism. "This fight isn't over," he told reporters outside. "Every citizen has a duty to hold power accountable. Question authority, demand truth, and never back down." His message was a lesson: democracy thrives when courage and preparation meet corruption head-on. Kennedy's triumph showed that one voice armed with truth can shift history, urging Americans to stand up and protect the principles that define their nation.